Bonjour, vous êtes bien chez Madame Pittenger. Je vais vous donner des notes sur l'imparfait et le passé composé. This is the second part of the imperfect notes on when to use the imperfect. Before we did really just how to use it, like what the rules are for forming it. And now we're getting more into the details of other times when you have to use imperfect instead of passé composé. Alors, remember, imparfait is all one word, and passé composé has two pieces, a helping verb and a past participle. Imperfect, so far we've said, is really used for the setting of a story, like background information, or the part of the story that was interrupted if you're doing like a single sentence story. The example I usually give is I was standing on the deck when my mom called and said she had dislocated her knee. Was standing is the imperfect. When my mom called would be the passé composé, and told me she had dislocated her knee, that would all be in passé composé. Okay, so we're going to look at each one of these vocabulary words. Some of them you know, a couple of them you might not really know yet, but you're going to decide if it should be probably used with the imparfait or probably used with passé composé, and you'll label it as PC for it sounds like something that would take passé composé, or IMP or I for it sounds like something that's telling you that it happened more than one time or over a long period of time. Alors, so I'm just going to make sure you know what they all mean, and then you need to pause and label the words as imparfait ou passé composé. Alors, souvent, that's a word from last year, often. Tous les mois, tout is all or every, tous les mois, every month. Un jour, one day. Tout le temps, all the time. Fréquemment, frequently. De temps en temps. I think you know this one really well. That one's from time to time, and if you're not totally sure what it means, you can tell that it means repeatedly because you see temps en temps. Ce matin, this morning. Hier soir, last night. That actually is yesterday night, yesterday evening. Hier, yesterday. Tous les jours, every day. Jeudi dernier, last Thursday. You could have vendredi dernier, samedi dernier, janvier dernier. You can use dernier to modify pretty much anything. And à midi, at noon. Ensuite, this is where you're going to pause, label all of these, and we will go over them in class. Next, we're looking at times when passé composé is not going to be used for things. It's not that it can't be, but it's almost never going to be used for these criteria: age, weather, time, mental states and feelings, wishes and wants, thoughts, and physical descriptions. Some of these are a little more vague, but I'm giving you examples that clearly illustrate the concept. So for age, j'avais 10 ans. If you put something like age in passé composé, it sounds like I turned 10, so you would say j'avais 10 ans if you're saying something happened when you were 10, but j'ai eu 10 ans is I turned 10 and got a bike for my birthday or something. Il faisait très beau. That's just description of weather. Remember, we said that there are times when weather is an event, like if you're talking about Hurricane Ike, or it snowed so much that we got 4 days off in a row. That would also be a weather event. That wouldn't just be description. Time, c'était midi. Wishes, states of, like mental states, feelings. Je voulais faire du je voulais faire du vélo. J'étais contente. I wanted to ride my bike. I was happy. Those are wishes, technically a want, and a feeling. Thoughts. Je pensais que j'allais chercher mon casque. I thought about going and getting my helmet. Physical descriptions. J'avais un vélo rouge foncé. I'm describing the bike here. Actually, I'm saying I had a bike that was like this, but it's background information. And here, le vélo était petit, physical description, because something like a bike, or usually when you're talking about what something looks like, it doesn't change while you're looking at it. So it kind of implies that it went on for a while, that the thing looked like that. So can you go back through and replay this section and copy in these examples? Then We also use imparfait to make suggestions. This is kind of like the equivalent of saying in English, what if we ordered a pizza, or how about ordering a pizza? Et si on commandait une pizza? Si on allait voir un film d'horreur? So in the space that you have left, could you, right in here, make another suggestion? You're going to start with si, on, or you could start with si nous, and then a different verb, not ordering and not related to pizza, but if you wanted to say, like, what if we went to a horror movie? What if we saw paintings? What if we had the flu? Bon. Alors, then I want you to read this paragraph and see if you can read this. Alors, read the paragraph and notice which parts are in the imperfect, which parts are in passé composé, and I want you to go through and look at each verb and label why it is in that verb tense. So you'll actually start by labeling the tense. Quand j'avais 15 ans, this is the imperfect, so you'll write a little I and you'll say why using these criteria. Is it in the imperfect because they're talking about age, weather, time, feelings, thoughts, descriptions, physical descriptions? Or is it like it's the setting in a movie? Is it one of the other criteria we used back when we first started learning the passé composé versus imparfait? Je m'intéressais, imperfect, so go through and find all of the verbs, label their tense, and then say why. Unless it's passé composé, you'll just say action.
Can you talk to the team real quick?
Yes. Ensuite, next, this is a second night of homework. One of our major tasks in French 2 is to use these two past tenses correctly to tell stories. We need them both when we're telling stories, explaining what happened, conversing about the past, etc. You already know that, but now we're really getting into practicing when to use which one. So we have labeling again, identifying the tenses, and then saying why. Je regardais la télé quand le téléphone a sonné. Instead of labeling them on here, I used yellow to show that it was imparfait and red to show passé composé. I think of red for passé composé really because passé composé is like kind of like the idea of bam and then action. So je regardais la télé quand le téléphone a sonné. Je regardais is that idea of like interrupted action. It's what was going on, that was ing idea. And then when the telephone rang is an action. Nous avons vu Star Wars. So just go through each one of these sentences and label all of the verbs as PC or I. You can highlight them if you want, and then give a really short explanation of why it's in that tense. Voilà.